so happy to have you back in Columbus. Tell us who you are.
My name is Janice Carissa. I'm a classical pianist. I was born in Indonesia, but came to America when I was 15, and now I live in Philadelphia.
Nice.
And my name's Julian. I play the violin. Was born and raised in Wisconsin, so fellow Midwesterner, and then did my studies in Boston, and now I'm based in New York City.
I'm just noticing we're representing the Asians.
Hello.
Okay. And so tell us, we want to know a little bit about both of you. And you've been to Columbus, you've been to ProMusica. This is both your second time with us, of which we're very, very excited. I don't think audiences quite know yet more of your background. So tell us a little bit about where you went to school, who was your inspiration in school, and that brought you to your career at this point.
That's a good questions. So I went to Curtis Institute of Music for 9 years. I did my pre-college as well as undergrad there, and then I did my master's in Juilliard for 2 years afterwards. And I guess my biggest inspiration ever since I was a kid was really actually truly from my mom because she raised me and both myself and then on the piano. And then I guess I was very lucky to be in a place where literally where I wake up and where I go to bed is basically just like music 24/7 because it's a music school. So I'm very grateful to my mom. But of course, my teachers. I was very fortunate to study with someone that I grew up listening to the recording of and ended up, getting to know them on like a more deeper level and just like being inspired as a human being as well as a musician. Gary Graffman and Robert McDonald. So yeah.
Yeah, for me, born and raised in Wisconsin, and then my mom also got me started on violin. We were talking earlier this morning that for me, music was kind of a funny evolution where I started out as my mom forced me to practice. This is maybe relatable to some
I
people.
know the feeling.
Feel it exactly. And then for me, music kind of grew out of that over time. So then over time, it became something I spent more time and invested more of my energy into, and then it became something else entirely. And so then I went to school in Boston. I was at New England Conservatory for bachelor's and master's, and then now I've been mostly based in New York City. But music now at this point for me has been certainly not anything I expected I'd be doing this seriously at this point. And in terms of inspiration, certainly my parents, my teachers, Vadim, of course, has been a huge part of my life and big part of the reason that we're sitting here, of course. And I met Vadim passing through a violin shop in Chicago, which is where I did all my formal studies. So then that's been a huge influence in my life too.
So I think it's safe to say I can feel your feelings about your mothers and your family being your source of inspiration and instilling this love of music. And sounds like we've all been inspired, or we continue to be inspired by Vadim. So it's great. So what age do you remember? Did you make your first debut with orchestra? Do you recall?
Um, My first time playing with orchestra was 2015. That was my first time going on, and it was the most surreal experience because I'd never played with orchestra before. I'd played with my brother as an orchestra on the piano. He used to play the piano, and I remember going on stage feeling quite intimidated and perhaps a little bit disoriented as well because the way sound travel on stage is so different from what it sounds like in the audience. So I remember feeling like I can't hear the flute. I don't know where is this and where is that? And then I just remember at the end of the day feeling like, wow, like even though like I'm really new to this, they were all very kind. And it was also just like the joy of sharing music with others, making music together. As a pianist, I feel like oftentimes you play alone. And so to just like be able to share the stage with someone else who's also just going all in, full sending the music, their heart, and trying to communicate and express something, it was just like so inspiring. And I knew I was addicted to it. But yeah, here you go.
I'm trying to remember. I probably the first memory I have is when I was 8 or 9, but it is kind of something pianists don't get to do. So it was part of, I was in a youth orchestra in Milwaukee, and then we had a concerto competition there. And I just remember also feeling very, very nervous just because you're playing in front of people you know. And so it's all your friends, all your colleagues. At that time, I was very young and very, very small. And so that was a great experience. It was Brook Concerto, is what I recall. But certainly to get in front of that many people, and when it's people you know and your friends, that was my first experience probably getting that nervous too in front of people.
So you're now seasoned and have all these wonderful life experiences. What advice would you give young musicians today?
Oh man, I think we were visiting some schools yesterday. I was talking to some people about even if you're serious about music or not. I think for me, as we were mentioning before, music became something out of a lot of time spent, and it became a choice for me. I think people feeling I think especially with music, we spend a lot of time practicing. It's kind of what we do, but actually having the opportunity to explore lots of different things and make it a a part of you that is something you've chosen to kind of explore, I think for me has felt very, very empowering because if you're in it and it's something that you're really spending your life doing, it should feel like something you've really spent time thinking about. And so for me, it took me time into not rushing into feeling that it became what it is now for me. I think I've talked to a lot of my friends who have been practicing since they were 5 or 6, and it's a lot of pressure at a certain point when later on you're exploring that and you're thinking, why am I doing this again? And have a chance to really explore a lot of other things. So I guess my advice would just be to take your time in figuring out what music ends up looking like for you. For me, it took a lot of time and it was a later choice. And I think there's actually a lot more time than we realize.
That's great. Kind of be in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hard to top that. I guess to add to what he said, which I wholeheartedly agree. I think the one thing that I realized became really important for me to remember the joy of, making music, because it's sometimes can be tricky when your hobby becomes your work. Sometimes you forget like the love that you used to pour into it. And so someone actually once told me like practice but explore the world. Like oftentimes like the typical grind is that when we travel, we get out of the airport, get to the hotel, try to find a piano to practice on, show up to rehearsal, perform, get on the airport, back. um so many missed opportunities to see the world. And so I remember just like exploring. I was in Vienna for the first time and I completely fell in love with that city, and my mentor who runs this festival said to me, there's a reason why in here everyone's limited to practicing only a certain amount of time. First of all, it's not only just like space, but it's also that you're in Vienna. Go to the museums, go to the gardens, go out into the suburbs, into all the places. And I have to say, like, ever since he told me that, I realized sometimes the best way to find inspiration is away from your work. So my 2 cents would be practice, but experience the world too.
She's saying stop practicing.
Stop practicing.
Dang.
Yes.
Don't
No
listen to her.
practice. Forget about it. Just show up. Absolutely. Just sight read everything. It'll be better.
Thank you so, so much. And it's wonderful because you've worked together many times outside of here in Columbus and in the Southern Theater, and your friendship, I think, is just such an inspiration, not only just to share it with us, but to share it with the world and everyone who's coming this weekend. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We feel very lucky to be here. And of course, couldn't have done this without you too. So thanks for having us back.